Hi, I'm Danyell Adamski. I'm a relationship master coach. Catch me on the Jessie T Show.
Danyell, what is going on, sister?
Hey, Jessie, I'm so excited to be here. Not much. It's after Easter, so.
I know. Where are you, surviving or thriving after Easter?
Well, I'll be a little bit of both, to be honest with you. I had a drink called the Tiffany, and I'm not a drinker. So I drank a little bit of it, and then I didn't feel so good. So yeah, a little bit of both.
What's in a Tiffany? What kind of alcohols?
It's like a mimosa, I think. But it was blue. So anyway, I'm not a big drinker. My brother made it for me. I thought, I'll give it a try. It tasted really good, but then didn't sit very well. So
isn't it amazing how alcohol jacks your system up? It's like even one drink, especially, I just turned 40 and, literally like a beer can kind of like throw off my sleep and, it'll stick with me. When I was younger, if I had some drinks, I could literally not even sleep and just go into the next day at work and like feel fine.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the coming of age of, do you continue to drink or do you stop because it's not good for you,
Yeah. Well, I don't really like to drink because it really doesn't sit well with me on many levels. But I thought, well, it's Easter and it's a blue drink and my brother made it for me. So
why not? That's awesome. And I know you were telling me you had some fun with the family, doing some different things, Easter egg hunts and all that.
Yeah, it was really nice. We go over to my dad's house. He's got this really great garage with, it looks like an extension of his house. It's beautiful. Get to see all my nieces and nephews and, just have a good time. And that's so beautiful. We haven't been able to, with COVID and everything, see each other as often as we would like to see each other. So it's been probably about a year since we were able to get, maybe even longer, get everybody together and celebrate just being with each other. So it was really nice. There's been a lot that's happened over the last couple of years, obviously with COVID, and there's been, many deaths in the family and stuff like that. So yeah, it's nice to be able to come together with those that you do have and celebrate and just enjoy the time together. So yeah, it was really cool.
No question. And thank you for opening up a little bit about that. I know a lot of people have gone through a lot of suffering in one way or another, from mental health to, isolation, which could exacerbate things mental health wise, but also relationships. And, you mentioned your family and you mentioned, different people that you care about. And I know a lot of people, I have some connections up in Canada too, that were really, really having a hard time. They were just locked down pretty heavily. And I remember this one woman I had on the podcast a while back was saying that all she wanted to do was hug her parents. Like she couldn't even hug her parents. Like, and for whatever that is for people in terms of if they want to get outside, if they want to plug into nature, if they want to see their friends or family, it's really important that we have that human connection. And so I think that having you on discussing relationships, human connection, your journey is a perfect fit. So give us a little bit of color, context on, what you do and kind of how you show up in the world.
Yeah. So currently I'm a relationship master coach. Right now I'm helping women to do one of three things. I'm helping them to either get their spouse back. So spouse has said that he no longer wants to be in the marriage for whatever reason. The second person is there's an affair going on. So the husband is torn between staying or going. And the third type of person that I'm helping is someone that has been having like more of a roommate relationship than a soulmate relationship.
Oh my goodness.
And they really would prefer to obviously have the soulmate relationship, but ultimately just bringing the relationship back to where its best days, trying to get to that point where you can continue to have this wonderful marriage and go on. So yeah, that's what I've been doing lately in the world. And
it's beautiful. And there's so many different reasons why intimacy can fade away and the romance maybe kind of dimmers down and communication is stifled. And there's so many different things, from individual traumas people have experienced to maybe communication skills they never really honed. And a lot of times it's doing that self-work that can really help you show up for yourself and then other people. So in that vein of what you're seeing, are you starting to kind of draw parallels or common dynamics between the people that you work with on where these things start to fall apart in terms of the relationship or the breakdown of intimacy?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I look at it is we're on this spiritual journey, and we've come here to this earth to have this awakening, but yet not everybody is awakening at the same time. Okay, so I think that a lot of this is an opportunity. I look at when they're having troubles, it is an opportunity to get really close to your spirit side, to get back into an alignment with your highest self. So I think when we're first starting a relationship, we have this, I feel like the mirror is that they're mirroring to us what God sees in us or what higher self sees in us. They mirror to us like that we're beautiful or that we're, wonderful, we're charming, we're handsome, we're whatever, right? And we fall in love with this vision of ourselves almost. It's very narcissistic in a way, but we're falling in love with a vision of how they see us, right?
Yes.
We love how they look at us and how they see us. And then what happens is some sort of expectation is broken or some sort of, need is not getting met. And then oftentimes I feel like people fall into this victimhood. They fall into me versus you type of mentality. And they're struggling because they don't know how to get to that love because it was outside of them.
That's
in their
right.
mind. It was this other person that created this love for them. And when that starts, looks like, I wouldn't say it disappeared, but when it looks like it's disappearing or it looks like it's fading, then oftentimes we get into fear and we will start to control the situation. We'll try to attach to it more out of fear that we're not going to get it anymore. And so because of that, then you start becoming, a controlling wife, a nagging wife, demanding wife, or a neglectful wife, or just a busy mom. And you start doing other things and not tending to the marriage in a way that is, you come from a place of fear versus love. Because if you love someone, you wouldn't necessarily treat them the way that people are being treated. And so I just see that at some point people are trying to get their needs met because they think it's an outside thing that they need to achieve in order to get that needs met. So whether that means that they turn to somebody else for their relationship needs and have an affair, or they just want to get away from that person because they no longer want to be attacked or they don't want to feel the way that they're feeling, so they want to leave. Or they become roommates because over time, either they might have been rejected or they just drifted apart, have two different interests, no longer like the person, no longer like the way they look, whatever, right? And so they're just, again, doing the best that they can with their level of awareness that they have. That was a long thing to say, but that's really how I feel.
No, it's beautiful. And I think you touched on so many beautiful points I want to go deeper on. And the first thing that comes to mind is just, through my journey and looking to those who have been on this awakening, and this consciousness elevation, it all starts with the I, right? Which is the ego, but it all starts with you individually. And it starts with self-love, and it starts with everything that you seek is within. And I've had incredible messages sent to me through different means of different work that I do that, I'm a healer, I'm creator, I'm powerful, and love is the answer. Love is the answer. And this is, this may sound kind of woo to people and like out there, but if you can meet every situation in your daily life with love and kindness, and again, tough love, and sometimes you're kind of going to go back and forth up down that anger scale, so to speak. But if you can really try to course correct in the moment and come at the situation with love, it absolutely incredibly completely changes the dynamic of what's going on. And you can't pour from an empty cup. And a lot of people will do that, try to be everything to everybody. They'll try to, self-medicate with whatever it is, escapism, alcohol, drugs, relationships, someone who's going to tell them they're pretty, someone who's going to tell them they're handsome. And we don't even need any of that. If you just love yourself, and it's not easy because the world will beat you up. It'll chew you up and spit you out, and it'll keep hammering down. It's the war of attrition. And if you can step into that self-love and you can really come from a place of wholeness and gratitude. And again, it's not easy to do every day, right? Sometimes we have bad days. We're human.
Yeah.
This journey is about suffering, but learning to embrace the suffering and love it and then kind of transmute the suffering. But that being said, self-love, it seems so obvious, but a lot of people miss the mark. So I kind of want to stop on that point before the other couple that you had mentioned and talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing with either self-love, the people that are lacking it, and or some of these practices where they can re-implement it back into their lives.
Yeah. So what I teach them to do is to really know who they really are. I teach them to understand who, and I believe in God and I believe in source energy and I believe that we really are one. We're creators.
No question.
And if we actually looked at us in the way that God, source energy would look at us, they would see, perfection. They would see, right, that we are just the most amazing light beings in human form that's out there. We're so precious. And so what I do is I help them to realize that that's who they really are. So they're attached so much to the suffering. They're attached so much to the ego that they can't see that even like extremely religious people, which always shocks me, but even very extremely religious people, I attract a lot of spiritual people and religious people, Catholics, Christians, they tend to know what they should do, but yet they don't know how to do what they know they should do.
Yeah.
They know they should forgive their spouses for, an argument or something, but they don't know how. They don't really understand the how to do that, even though God, Jesus says, forgive, right? It's just, it surprises me, but I think it's taken me a long time to get here. So really, I can't judge too much here. Everybody is on a spiritual journey and it can take however long it takes, right? And like I say, oftentimes an event like this will push you to either go to God or higher self, or they go in the opposite direction and play the victim, right?
Yep.
So you get to choose. And when I try to help them understand that self-love really is loving the God within you, the source within you. And so we work on how do I identify myself as that perfect person, as that perfect being, as that perfect spirit? How do I get that? And what does that mean to me? And so there's a lot of work that goes into self-care. I mean, as you know, you do it a lot, right? So
it's a big part of my life.
It's a huge part of your life. And so that it takes a lot of courage to say no to people if you're a people pleaser and do what you need to do.
Yep.
Right? It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of faith. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of it takes a ton of stuff in order to actually practice self-love. And then like your life depends on it, like we talked before, right? Like your life depends on it. How would you really behave? And so I walk my clients through how to do that on a daily basis. And it takes some time. It takes practice. I'm still practicing.
The journey's never over. The spiritual journey, the healing journey. It's just it's a forever process. But you learn to get still, be aware, and you learn how to really embrace it. And when you do that, it changes the paradigm of this constant suffering, this constant feeling of being lost or without passion or without purpose. And you have to love that side of you, and all sides of you. Like we have the light and the dark, and one is needed for the other. There is no light without the dark. You can't have contrast. You can't fully respect and love the great things in your life without the shit, like without going through the hard stuff. Yeah. And honestly, the hard stuff is what makes people great.
Yeah.
Because they overcome. And there's this beautiful quote. I'm sure you've heard this name before, but Ram Dass talks about we're all just walking each other home.
Yeah.
Like just through life. That's it. So we are all a piece of one another. We are all brothers and sisters on this planet. And really what it is like to take people along on this journey, and however long they're on the journey with you for, whether it's a year, whether it's a lifetime, whatever, maybe it's a moment, maybe it's just a smile at someone in the walking through Walmart or something, and you just give someone a smile and it brightens their day. And then they go ahead and it's a ripple and they go smile at somebody else. And these are little things that matter. But I want to go to the other point you had kind of brought up was I got the sense we were going to get into attachment styles. And so like you have avoidant and anxious, and, you know, how do you see those play out in relationships? Where do people, I'm sure there's trauma and there's conditioning they've received to be one or the other, and some of the other attachment styles that are out there, but when are these starting to get exacerbated? Like needs are not being met, or, you know, communication dies down. When do you see these come to light, and when can they be really negative?
Well, typically people come to me when their spouses, I'm like the last resort.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
The oh shit button. Like
I've become that. Yeah. Oh shit button. Oh my goodness, Danyell, like, can you just make this miracle happen for me? I think people see it happening throughout their marriage. And I see that some people try to hold on so tightly that what I often see is that their spouse, they don't allow their spouse to have any other source of enjoyment besides the family, because they take it so personal. Like the person doesn't love them if they're spending time with their friends. The spouse doesn't love them if they work, they're a workaholic. The spouse doesn't love them if, they're not doing the chores in the house or whatever, right? I mean, there's always something that the women are looking at and saying, well, he must not love me. He must not care for me. He must not want to be with me. I must not be important. And it all goes down to the limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves, and they just play out in reality over and over again. Instead of looking at things differently, the way that I look at my husband's time is that we need to have some autonomy. We need to have like our own things that we do that bring us joy.
Yes.
And it may just bring us joy. I mean, I love to sit and read. I probably read 5 books a week, either if I'm listening to them or I'm actually reading.
Wow.
Books. I love to read. I love to write. I spend probably 2 hours every morning just journaling and writing. And then I spend at least 3 to 4 hours a day, no lie, just in my own world.
That's incredible.
Of books and writing and just being me. He could spend 4 hours out in the garage tinkering.
Yeah.
If I looked at that and said, oh, well, he doesn't love me because he's not like up my ass all day, right? And not telling me how gorgeous I look and how my hair looks so great and my eyeshadow looks so great. If I did that, right, he would want to even do it more. It would just push him away, not pull him closer to me, because no one likes to be controlled. We're all free will spirited people. And so for us to then be like controlled is very, very hard on our ego, and it's hard on our soul to be like that. So I see women doing that to their partners, and then their spouse wants to leave. And so I can see why from both perspectives. I can see how she feels, and I can also see how he's feeling. He's not getting any of his needs met because he's making like her the center and her happiness a priority over his if he does that.
Yep.
So I just don't take a lot of things personal anymore like I used to. I used to take a lot of things personal, but not so much anymore. Like I'm just like, that's on you. That's not me.
Yeah. And it's a really beautiful, almost superpower to be able to remove yourself from that feeling attacked or feeling accused or singled out. Because a lot of times it's just miscommunication. And a lot of times, especially, speaking for guys, the paradigm shifting beautifully, but like growing up, a lot of us weren't taught how to emote. We weren't taught how to convey emotions. It was suck it up, don't be a pussy, blah, 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 especially in the military. Right. And it was make it happen no matter what. And it was shut up and get through it kind of thing. And it was, for me as a kid, I was highly empathetic, and it was beaten out of me in a sense, physically, mentally, emotionally. And it was like, okay, well, I can't really talk about how I feel. And what happens is, and I'm sure this happens for women too, to a degree, but women tend to be a lot, I think their brains are a little bit more set up to be more emotive and more communicative. And that's just like you talked about, you can journal for 3 or 4 hours. That's beautiful. And that's an expression. That's a thought loop that's bleeding out on the paper from your mind. And, I just turned 40. It's taken 40 years to get to a place where like, I've really realized that being empathetic is a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
I can go into a room and read a room and feel a room and kind of play as if I need to in terms of like how to approach a situation or how to receive somebody. And this is like an old sales thing from back in the day when I was in outside sales going door to door. You'd walk into a business and you would pitch them on whatever it was you were selling. And if you go into that business and you read the room really quickly and you see these, someone who's just woke up, they're not excited, like they're just kind of, it's a case of the Mondays, whatever. And if you go and they're on a 1 and you go in there on a 10 and you're like, whoa, I'm so excited, I'm selling, like you're going to freak people out. Like you gotta be like a level or two above where somebody is, maybe pull them up. But that's a superpower. And for men, men are highly emotional. Men want validation. Men want communication, but we just weren't really taught. And not that it's an excuse, but it is part of the journey. And so, I want to get into a little bit talking about relationships in the sense of being great teachers. Every relationship, family, friends, business, whatever it is in your life, you can always learn something from the interaction. You can learn something from the relationship. And, just kind of delving back into my journey, I did get to a place of divorce. And, thankfully, I don't call her my ex-wife. She's still a friend. She calls me her husband. I call her my wife. It's a beautiful way to honor and respect the time we had together, because we had 13 years together, 7 of them married. We lost children together. We started businesses together. We had children together. Like we had a really unbelievable journey. And to just discount that would be a disservice to both of us. And so when we got divorced with 8 weeks of talk therapy, back to back to lead up to the divorce, really to show up better for each other. But it was also with the mindset of like not screwing up the kids as much as possible because they're our world. Right. And so I say all that to say, to give some context and color, that I've learned so much from that relationship. And then being in the dating pool, whatever you want to call it, for the last 2 years, it's been a beautiful way. Like it's been a beautiful teacher. It's taught me what I want, what I don't want, what I'm willing to fight for, what I'm absolutely is like a non-negotiable. So what are your thoughts on relationships in terms of being teachers, what you could take from them, and just using relationships as a source of personal growth?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an opportunity, right? I think they're showing you exactly what you need to work on, and you're just not paying attention to it, and that's the awareness part that you need. If you take this opportunity and take a look at it, you might see that you had been giving someone all of your attention and not doing anything for yourself. You might see that your self-love was completely in the negative. You were in the red, and you never gave yourself that love. Maybe you didn't, you don't have confidence. Maybe, you're looking to somebody else to help you to gain the confidence. And so when I see people in situations like this, it's actually, to me, it's a really exciting thing, because this is really where you're gonna leap. You're gonna have this quantum leap in a soul, evolution, that if you decide to embark upon it, you can grow significantly. I mean, Larry was my biggest teacher. He was my most painful person. Painful teacher.
The obstacle is the way.
The obstacle is the way. That is so true. He was my biggest challenger, but really he's the one who put the mirror in front of me and said, that it was me. Maybe you should take a look at all of your relationships and take a look at what the common denominator is. And that's really, it pointed back to me in the way that I was looking at things. And so he did, he left me. And when he left me, it was this very surreal experience, because at first I thought to myself, fine, good riddance. I don't have to deal with this anymore. We're always fighting, and I don't have to ever go back there. And then I had a beautiful spiritual moment, and that really was like a wake-up call to me, that I did need to, first of all, I realized that he was my soulmate at that point. And then I also realized that I had not given myself the love that I needed. And I needed to do a lot of reflection and healing before I actually attempted any relationship going forward. luckily for me, he did come back to me after about 6 weeks of being apart. And I used a lot of I grew in that time, like exponentially. Okay. And I think it was my radical responsibility of what I was doing wrong that really helped him to even give me another chance. And then also the living in the present moment was a really big piece. He could not, have me continue to live in the past any longer. He's not the type of person that looks at things like glass half full, and I was at that time. And I was also always pulling every day back to the past, and it just really became overwhelming to him. And he said, I don't really want to live in the past.
Wow.
Like, I don't want to live there. And so I really had to take radical responsibility. I had to learn how to heal myself. And I learned how to let go during that time, really let go. And that's how I was able to get him to agree to giving me another chance. Now, it's not saying that I was perfect or that I didn't fall back into old patterns, but they didn't happen very often. And they became, as I continued to work on myself, they were less and less and less. And now it's, less and less and less and less, and even, a greater relationship as we've grown. So he's helped me. And I really believe that all relationships are a tool. And you can certainly, if you're not squeezing the juice out of that relationship and that experience, you're missing an opportunity really to grow spiritually and just keep, I feel like this experience really taught me how to help other people.
When we go through our darkest moments, that's where we find the light to kind of bring that back around again, where you feel like your wit's end, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, like you just don't know where to turn. There's no answers. You're kind of getting in your own way a lot of times. And, for you said that you had a spiritual moment and then you did this work, this deep work. What did that look like for you? What was this spiritual moment? And then what was the work that ensued that allowed you to come back to a place, after about 6 weeks or so?
I've had a couple spiritual moments. I'll tell you the one prior to this experience, and then I'll explain the other one. I remember I had gotten divorced. I like my husband. I think that's a great terminology.
Yeah.
I'm going to start using that. But we had ended our marriage, or I ended our marriage, let's say. And I remember just being on my floor. I was sleeping on my floor because the movers had moved everything out of our home, and I was moving into this house right here, this lake house. And I was laying there with my pillow and my blanket in an empty home. I didn't have a place to stay at that time besides my house. And I remember just crying, like feeling so lonely. It was just unreal. And I had severe depression for many, many years. And it was obviously it was impacting my health and my decision-making abilities for sure. And I just remember thinking, this cloud has got to just leave. Like, this is just the worst. And I remember just asking God to take it. And I literally felt an energy leave my body, like physically leave my body. And I thought, oh my God, like that's so liberating. And then the next day, I just remember like feeling like what had happened to me because things changed drastically for me. So that was one experience. And then the other experience, when Larry had left, I was in this house and I was looking outside the window, and it's such a strange thing, but I saw the tree that we have in our backyard, and I saw it like split. And at that moment, my heart like split, like it like broke. It felt like, I don't know. It was just this, like, it was like without him, I didn't want to be without him. Like I had denied a lot of wanting to be with him. I guess, I don't know, it was strange. Like I didn't want to get married, and I didn't want to do that again because I was afraid to fail. And so I finally just like allowed the truth of, like he's my person, like he's my soulmate. So like I felt it at that point. So yeah, that was like the second time it was like, oh no, you need to get your shit together. Like, oh my God, whoa. And so now, I mean, I do understand why I attract those people to me that are very much like me, is because they may not have realized that, during their marriage, like how important this other person, or how to do the right thing.
Yep.
Like I didn't. And so yeah, I feel like that moment was the moment that I realized I better really start focusing on me, and understanding what it is that I've been doing wrong.
What was the insight or symbolism that you took from the tree splitting in two? What did that mean for you? What did that teach you?
It taught me one that, like, um I felt like I didn't need him. And then, like, when it split, I was like, and my heart broke, in a way. It was like, wait, do I need him? Like, maybe I do need him. Like, maybe he really is that other piece. Maybe he is that puzzle piece that I've been looking for, even though it didn't at the time look like it. I definitely felt at that point more ready to commit, more ready to be in the present, more ready to let go of the past, more ready, because I was still like struggling with getting a divorce, and still struggling without having my daughter around. I was struggling a lot with the decisions that I made, and I had felt some regret, and I felt guilt, and I felt shame. I felt all those things that everybody, I think, feels when they get a divorce. And so I just wasn't ready to really, really, really recommit, and like really step into the relationship in the way that he needed me to step into it. And so I think that to me was just like a sign that I really needed to take it seriously.
Yep.
And he really was that person for me. And I needed to figure out a way to get him back and make it right.
That's beautiful. Even if it's making it right for yourself, and knowing that you didn't leave anything on the table as far as efforts or love or intentionality. Because a lot of times I think people get out of relationships wondering what if, and they have regret. And that's the biggest thing for most people. I grew up, my parents were married before they had me. And then when they came together and had me, I was a little bit down the road a little bit in terms of my parents' age. And so I had like older aunts and uncles and people that in my family that seemed elderly, even as a child. And I can remember them talking around, the table, and just kind of here and there in life, picking up on the fact that like the biggest thing for them was not dying with regret, like making sure that whatever it was they didn't do or they needed to correct, they had to get it done in this lifetime. And I think that's so powerful, because it could be a North Star for people, whether it's something as trivial as asking out that girl, or, the woman who wants to go quit her job to start her passion and her business. I mean, these are things that are really going to matter, at the end of life, and the relationships that you have, the experiences that you have, the healing that you've done. It's not how big your house is when you die. It's not how many cars you have. Those things may be important to people in the journey, but at the end of the day, you're going to care about the love and the experiences. Mm-hmm. And did you correct the wrongs of screwing people over or healing yourself? And I think that's the biggest thing. And you had mentioned about 5 different times now the word soulmate. And I'm interested to hear what your take is on soulmate. What does soulmate mean to you?
Well, to me, it definitely means somebody that's going to help you grow it from a soul level. And he is that person that helps me. Sometimes it feels more like a thorn.
A challenge.
More like a challenge. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. I mean, I shouldn't say that anymore. I mean, it's really a lot easier, but certainly in the beginning, it did feel more of a challenge. But I really do believe that there are people that are there, and lots of people can be soulmates. I mean, so I don't really necessarily think that there's just one soulmate.
There's not.
Out for everybody,
there's definitely multiple
right?
soulmates.
Like there's multiple soulmates, and you can be with that soulmate for a moment or a lifetime or whatever, right? Like time to me is not really like time,
right?
Like we look at things. I just think it's at that moment for that time. And right now, definitely, Larry's, that person for me that really helps me grow from a soul level. He's definitely pushed me into a different, and I say it like jokingly, because I mean, he really has really been that person for me to really show me the parts of me that I needed to see. And he's helped me to connect with my soul and my spirit so much so. So to me, he's my soulmate because he is helping my soul. He's a friend for my soul. He really is that person for me to help me grow. And, I am so grateful for him. I am so grateful. And I'm so grateful for all the other soulmates that I've had in my life because they really have been a teacher for me. So I think of soulmate more as a teacher.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that sacred mirror, that reflection that you see of where you're showing up powerfully or present or, in service, in love. And then the other side where it's like, okay, I have some cracks in my game that I need to attend to. And, how can I show up better for myself than this other person in my life? And it is a beautiful contrast. I mean, the people that inspire you, challenge you, almost somewhat force you, not in a really, intense way, but they stir up something inside of you that says, I want to do better. And I am better and I can love better. And, maybe I'm doing great over here, but I need some work over here. And these sacred mirrors are really beautiful. And these can be friends. They could be, relatives, business people. It's sometimes a moment. Sometimes I've had profound insights just like in a passerby kind of conversation. And I'm like, wow, like that's really unbelievable. So tell me a little bit about you kind of have a niche specific that you work with. And it sounds to me, I know your story a little bit, so it makes perfect sense on how and why you do, but talk to me about who do you serve and when are they usually coming to you? And it's pretty much like that, oh shit button, like I need help, but talk about the people that you serve.
Yeah. So the people that I serve, they're all beautiful women that really care about their families and they obviously care about their spouse and they want to be with them. They do genuinely love this other person very much. They typically are professional career women that are, they're high achievers. They're really the go-getters. They're driven women that, have just a lot going on, right? They've got kids, they've got full-time careers. They're trying to make it in their company, go through that corporate ladder, or they're business owners. And, they tend to come to me in a desperate need to get their partner back. And a lot of times they didn't realize how bad it was for the other person, right? They didn't realize what was happening internally to their spouse. And so they do want to understand what they did wrong. They want to understand what can they do to win them back or to get back to that passion again. And they are really seeing that they want to be more of a loving person instead of fear-based person. They see that they want to become their best version of themselves. They are starting, I would say they're on the very beginning of the journey of awareness and raising their consciousness level. They're just beginning. Some are already a little bit on that journey, but most of them, this will catapult them into that awareness that they need to do this type of work in order to grow and not repeat the same mistakes. Because oftentimes their spouse will say, yeah, you know what, I don't think you'll ever change. And there's a belief that they may not change because they've been this way for 15, 20 years.
Yep.
And so they don't know how to change. Even if they want to change, it's only a temporary change that they can do on their own,
right,
without learning how to do this on a daily basis. And so that's the work, that's the work that we do, is to make this not just I'm going to do this until you come back to me and for, a couple months after you return, or, a couple months after we start working on our marriage. I want to be this person long term. I want to be the person you married long term. And I don't really want to go back to being that other person. So that's the type of person. They're highly driven, successful career women that really just, they know now it's time for them to focus on themselves. And cherry on the top, they get their spouse to stop cheating on them. Cherry on the top, they get their husband back. Cherry on top, they get the things that they're talking about. but 90% of the people that come to me, they do get the results. Only 10% really don't. And of those 10%, a lot of them don't even really, they've now realized that it's time to move on from the marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. Which could be a beautiful thing too. I mean, we have a society that says, 1 out of 2 marriages will fail. And if it does, that word fail really just comes up. And it's, you make this a lot of times if you get married in a religious type of setting, which most people do when they get married, it's like you're making this commitment before yourself, God, your friends and family. And then you start worrying about what other people will think if I quit or if I can't handle it, or what these negative terms. But really what it is a lot of times it's an act of self-love, and down, it might be a tough decision in the moment for all involved, but you can come back around to a place of wholeness and healing, knowing that it was the right decision, and saying this relationship was like, for me, I wasn't showing up the way I can now. I needed this 2+ year journey of healing and growth and learning and getting my ass kicked to come back more whole, kind of thing, and healing generational trauma at that. And to be able to show up more powerfully in the next relationship. And I wasn't doing that. And that was part, like, I take a ton of onus and a ton of responsibility, for my 100% that I could put in. And it's just a lot of times people do need to kind of step back. And if they can't do the work in the moment and they can't do the work together, the work has to get done. And, I'm thinking about the work, and I'm thinking about the tools. Some of the tools that I deploy with my clients and people that I work with is things like breath work, mindfulness practices, thermogenesis, hot cold contrast, things that create energetic states of transformation. Other things, plant medicines down the road for people, not for everybody. But what are some of the tools that you're using specifically to help create change, be a catalyst for something new for your clients?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, you talked about communication. So, I mean, that's one piece. Okay. Our words are powerful, and the words that we speak out of our mouth are really powerful. But it's also the meaning that we give all the words that we say, right? And so communication isn't just about the words, although the words are super powerful. It's about the meaning that we give the words. Okay. And I think, what I do best is I help women and men see what's underneath all of the words, what's underneath what is underneath all of that. And is the meaning a meaning that you're giving it? Is it true meaning, or is it the false meaning? And so we really look like under the hood in the relationship. We look at how we are thinking. And oftentimes what I feel, and I know that is happening, is that we are operating from a fear-based decision-making, speaking, action, feeling. And when you are operating out of fear, all you're going to get back in return is more fear, right? Like, it's going to come back to you. And so a lot of what I do is uncovering the words that you're using throughout your day, the words we speak to our spouse, the words we say to our own self. And I pick apart these words, and we look at what are the meanings that we're giving all of this stuff. And then we talk about the belief that you must have in order for you to even think like that. What is the real belief that you have? And then we look at, healing that inner child that we all have. And where did this all stem from? Where did you first get this meaning? And where did you hear this? And then going back to the origin and really healing that part, that 7-year-old, 5-year-old, 3-year-old, 2-year-old, whatever that person, and continuing to do this healing. So some of the tools that I use is like forgiveness technique I talked about. And that's really, the Ho'oponopono is one of the prayers that I
love that you just said that.
Absolutely love, right? I mean, and I think as it gains more momentum and more people hear about it, it's actually more powerful. So that's
beautiful.
The first thing that I do.
Can you, for people that don't know what Ho'oponopono is, can you talk a little bit about the 4 steps to it and what it does? And
Yeah, so the Ho'oponopono is a Hawaiian prayer, and Dr. Hugh Lin had started this prayer, I believe it was when he was in a mental institution down in Hawaii. And so what he had done was, I think there was about 400, and I could be wrong on the number, okay, I don't have the best memory, but basically, he had these mental patients in there. And every day he would go into his office and he would take one of their files and he would just say the Ho'oponopono prayer all day on that person. And then, next day do the same thing with a different person. And then over time, I think it was about 4 years or something like that, all of the patients had been released from the mental hospital because they were starting to get better. Yep. And it was, he never met with them. And so, this prayer is extremely powerful, and I started using it too. And I think, for me, it was about 14 days before I started to see some massive results in myself where I could let go of resentment and anger. Mm-hmm. Some people that, have hurt me really bad, it took a little bit longer, but in general, I would say if you do this prayer for 14 days, if you're resentful and you're angry and you're hurt, and you have low vibrations under the level of 200, which is courage, anything below that, you're going to experience some major shifts in the way you feel and the way you think. So I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. That's the way I do it.
Ooh, so, and I chills.
I say it really with a heart to heart, like I'm connecting to that person's heart. I'm imagining that person so much, and I'm seeing their beautiful face, and I'm saying, I'm sorry. And really, when you're connecting them, even if they're mad at you and they've done something to you, they've hurt you, we're all one. So just imagine that we're all one person, one spirit. So let's just say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Doesn't matter. And that's the real forgiveness. That it's amazing what it can do. So that's a big piece of how do I let go of all this hurt? How do I get back to the beginning? And that tool right there has been super helpful.
It's incredible. And thank you for sharing that, because that's something that actually was, the universe was knocking on my door for a couple of years, teaching me that. And, I had heard it on a podcast. I think it was Aubrey Marcus talking about it. Another great spiritual brother on the path, so to speak. And, like the way I first initially took it was, it's a great way to frame an apology. Like it's to tell someone that you're sorry. And so if you build context around the conversation, but you have those kind of almost bullet points in there, but you build around it, it's a very powerful sorry. Like it's a very powerful, place of gratitude and humbleness and love. And how can someone really like get mad at you after that? You know what I mean? Like, how can someone not like open up when you really, you get on your knees, right?
And that's a lot of, I've got this client right now. And her husband was not coming out of the basement. Like he moved to the basement, and
it happens.
And she says, what do I do? And I said, okay, well, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go downstairs. I want you to tell him I'm sorry, and then ask him to please forgive you, and then walk away and say thank you and I love you. Like really, like say this. If he doesn't say, I accept your apology, then you can just say thank you later, right? Like, it's okay. You just tell them that you love them. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and then you can walk away and go, thank you. Like it's already done. Like once you've done that from a genuine heart, it's like you said, Jesse, it's really hard to say that you don't forget that person. Okay. But like I said, it may take more than one time. So, it can take, depending on how stubborn and depending on how hurt that person is, it might take a long time before they actually open up to receiving that apology. But
yes,
what I've seen over the years is that within 14 days, there's some miraculous change that happens in a relationship.
No question. And the softening of your own heart and the love that comes from that. Mm-hmm. It's so powerful. And again, from that moment when I first heard it, it was amazing how it had been following me around to where, I do some wild shit. And so I go to Tulum once every 5 or 6 months because it is a very, very powerful vortex of energy and of positivity, of love. It is just, when you get down there, it's just like, boom, boom, like it's a thing. It's really wild. And I was in Tulum. The second, going back a couple of trips, was August of last year. And I sat with a gentleman inside of a teepee and I smoked DMT. And DMT is known as the God molecule. Basically brings you direct insight, direct contact, which you already have, but really profoundly. Mm-hmm. And, in this journey, one of the biggest insights I got, because I went into this journey, really asking how I could heal the world. It was on my heart, because I had the pain and suffering that I had witnessed. Like, I knew the world, and I was feeling it. I was literally feeling the pain and suffering of the world for, about a year, opening myself up to these things. And I was like, how do I heal the world? And the insight just came to me. And I mentioned this earlier, I think, but love is the answer. Mm-hmm. Love is the answer. It really is. And you have to heal yourself, heal the world. Mm-hmm. And during that whole time, he's doing the Ho'oponopono like in the teepee. And he's doing it like he's facilitating this journey. He's playing harmonica, he's singing songs, and he's walking me through this, psychedelic state, which was absolutely incredible. But he was giving me that love too. And another journey, actually on the same trip, there's these like wellness classes that the resort or whatever, the hotel that I was staying at, offers. And one of them was an orgasmic bliss class, and it was beautiful. And basically what she did at the end of it was she had us lay down and recite, I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you. And the way she was doing it was in reference to any like sexual choices that did not serve us.
Yeah.
One night stands, or energetically like looking for something to fill your own cup, and like coming from a place of lack or fear. And I started fucking bawling, crying. Like, she had us hold one hand on our heart and one hand over our genitals. And she was like, you really like tap in. And it was life-changing. And I'm ugly crying, like sobbing and like shaking. And it was a beautiful release. Yeah. Because when's the last time most people have done that? Never. Right. Never. And it's so powerful. Just these words, right? And this is again getting kind of into the woo-woo, but they call spelling because you're casting spells. Like, your words create
things,
everything. Like we're communicating. The human species is based on story. Like, it's all about story and the words that come out, and this is how we communicate it, and this is how we pass stories down, right? And it's just very powerful if you set the intention. This is the biggest thing. No matter what you do, talk therapy, mindfulness practices, getting into nature, psychedelics, whatever it is that people are into, as long as you set the intention going into it and say, this is what I'm calling in, this is what I'm releasing, this is what I want, kind of thing, that's 90% of the game.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I have to do a journal entry, and it starts with intention. Set your intention. I mean, you're right. That's the first thing you have to do throughout the day. Set your intention. I actually, on my phone, I say, what is your desires today? Like, when my alarm goes off, if I'm not up already, it says, what do you desire today? Like, what do you desire to create today? Because my intention is always to create. Yeah. I'm a creator, so therefore I'm going to create. So what do I desire to create today?
I love it. One last thing before we jump off, you had mentioned, and I didn't want to gloss over it, was the inner child. And inner child work is so powerful. It is to recognize, to honor, to see this 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old that had this trauma or this hurt that kind of changed their worldview, and to honor that and to love that is some of the most powerful work you can do. And you had talked about on our last conversation, one of the things that you use personally or with clients is EFT tapping. And these energetic points on our body, similar to acupuncture, we can release energy and stored trauma from these events, and it's just tapping on certain parts of your body. And it's a powerful release, especially if you do inner child work simultaneously with it. And I think it's super important for people to go because we're all like little kids in these adult bodies. Some people have never really grown up because their transformation has been muted by trauma or something, in their life. They have to go back and they have to correct these things. And the biggest thing I could say is most people that, become more and more conscious, more and more awakened, and potentially even enlightened in this lifetime, they all go back to being kids. They all go back to like goofing around and having fun, playing. Yeah. And you look at some of these stories of like medicine people, men and women, shamans, right? Like back in the day, when someone would go to one of these medicine people for healing, they would say, when was the last time you sang? When was the last time you danced? When was the last time you played? When was the last time you created something? And if you hadn't done any of those things, they'd send you away to go do them and say, come back. And then people would be like rejuvenated. And so talk to me about inner child work really quickly, how powerful it's been for you personally and or what you've seen with your clients.
Yeah. So I'll just speak from my personal experience. When I started doing it, I had this abandoned child from, when my dad had left my mom and they got divorced, and I knew I wasn't abandoned. My dad's never abandoned me. Like he's a great father, but as a 5-year-old, you don't really understand that that person is leaving because of whatever, X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And so as a 5-year-old, I had this trapped, I guess, emotion or whatever, saying that I was abandoned. And I really wasn't, but I felt like I was abandoned at that age. And so over the years, I did create relationships that would put me in situations where either I was protecting myself from getting abandoned or I was
self-sabotage, maybe.
Right. I would self-sabotage. I was very good at self-sabotaging.
Same.
And so when I did my first inner child healing, I found that it was a 5-year-old, then, 18-year-old, then 25-year-old, then 30-year-old, then, it was like, okay, there was multiple times when this has occurred in my life, and it would continue to occur until I actually really spend the time to heal this inner child. And so I do the inner child work to stop like repeating the same sabotaging or same vibration is being sent out there and coming back to you over and over again. And so without healing the inner child, people will see this very similar situations continue to pop up in their life, I believe, until you get that lesson, until you actually go and learn how to heal the inner child. I mean, that's my belief system. So I believe that when that happened, the world reflected a different reality for me.
No question.
And things looked very, very different to me. And so we do touch on that briefly in my program. And people can take it to another level. So, I mean, there's a lot to learn, obviously, in the course of 6 weeks of helping you to save your marriage. Okay. So there is each week, there is a lot of material to learn and understand. So this awakening is happening very quickly because I understand the urgency of people needing to want to get their spouse back, or want to get their relationship back on track, or I understand the timetable for them is very important. So we go through a lot, and then they can take it and continue to do that journey over and over again so that it doesn't happen again.
I love it. It's so powerful. I just want to be the first listener and viewer to say thank you for being you and for showing up powerfully, present, passionately in our conversation. I learned a ton and validated a ton about things, and just there's so much to this game called life that it's just really giving yourself the space and the grace to be able to allow that growth and that healing. And, I'm excited to continue our connection and see where our journey leads. And so for others that have listened to this, what's the best way they can get in touch with you if they have relationship issues or questions?
Yeah, so you'll just want to go to www.danyelladamski.com. My name is spelled very uniquely. It's DanyelLadamski.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much and look forward to our next chat.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.